Where is Ralph when you need him the most? When you don't have to click all the buttons behind the scenes? Welcome in, everybody. My name is Bryce Coon. We got Talking Tuesday. We're back after about a 2 to 3 week hiatus. We appreciate you staying patient with us, but it's going to be myself and Will Manis as we talk a little football tonight for about an hour or so. And we take your calls on the phone lines, and we appreciate it. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel, that you check out YouTube channel, check out our website, and everything in between, social media included. Without further ado, let's talk a little football on the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Coon.
Welcome in on a Tuesday night, talking a little college football into Talking Tuesday. Will Manis, my name is Bryce Coon, and we welcome you in. Thanks so much for tuning in, whether it's live, getting your calls in, or after the fact. One of the many places you can do that right here on the YouTube channel, on X, or in our many podcast platforms as well. Will, it's Tuesday, which means we're kind of in that, I don't want to say danger zone, but we're kind of in that spot in college football season where we've only got a month left of like regular season games. So has it flown by to you? What's your feelings as we embark into the month of November where look, we're going to have, I mean, obviously a ton of playoff football action, but man, I love the regular season. I know you do too. What's your feeling as we've kind of just stormed through this college football season?
Well, October was just full of pain. I mean, it seemed like it drug on. Yeah, as Gavin says, this basketball season. Yeah, I think we're on to basketball on the Plains. But man, it's brutal. We've talked about it a lot. I mean, how does Auburn play 5 straight at home and then go on the road for 4 straight games? The SEC's got to do something. I mean, it's brutal. It's just brutal.
It's so dumb. I don't understand that. And I'm not even saying it like gives Auburn a leg up. I think it's dumb for fans. Like,
yeah, it is.
You know, look, I mean, you go to SEC games, I go to SEC games, having to go to pretty much your entire home schedule when it's 85 plus out and it's still humid is ridiculous. You know, and Auburn's a cool place. They need to be playing games where that 3:30 window turns into a dusk into a night game. And I guess what's their home night game this year? Or will they get a home night game in November?
Well, I think Texas A&M is still a flex, so probably not.
Is that next week?
No, that is in 3 weeks.
Interesting. I'd have to look and see what the
Auburn has another bye before that game.
I got you. It's also, you know, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this season because it is so important. But you've got recruiting early signing day. Just, I mean,
5
oh my
weeks.
gosh, yeah, we're 5 weeks away from that. The crazy part about it, Will, and we've opened the phone lines by the way, 225-317-9613. If you want to go ahead and call in, get that in. The crazy thing is that the early signing period is smack dab in the middle of conference championship week. That's just, what are you supposed to do? Like, truthfully, like, I mean, are they ever going to make this more manageable for coaching staffs?
Probably not. probably not. I mean, it's I don't know. I mean, I got a lot of words for it, but it's it's not great. It's not great by any means.
Yeah, it's I don't I guess what I'm trying to say here is, it's one of those things with just college football in general. Like, we talked to some coaches during the spring about this. It's one of those things where you have to prepare for a bowl game, which I mean, bowl games are going to become meaningless because if you put this recruiting schedule where it is currently, and obviously the portal, what's the incentive to play in a bowl game? You know what I'm saying? Like you're if you're a playoff team, that's your foregone prerogative. That's what you're going to do. You're going to play in the playoff. But also, if you're a playoff team, you're probably a pretty good team at recruiting. So you've got to divvy up part of your staff to be focused on that. Man, if I'm a 6-6 team, 7-5 maybe. I mean, yeah, bowl games are going to be fun and nice, but you have to get such a head start on what you have to do for 2025. How much time are you really going to allocate to that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you the recruiting part of playoffs. What about a team that loses their conference championship game and they're out of the playoff? I mean, that what do they? Why do they? Why would they want to play a bowl game? They wouldn't want to play one.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, we've seen it happen a lot in recent years, even before the playoff. Just teams just kind of mail it in before their bowl games. Some of them big bowl games. That's how we get upsets in bowl games.
Yeah.
A lot of times, teams just mailing it in, but it's really unfortunate. It's unfortunate.
It's unfortunate, and you kind of mentioned, Gavin says, we know Auburn didn't allocate any time to their bowl game last year.
Clearly.
Well, if they did, that makes it even more sad. Zach Nagy says, yeah, here we go. Zach, call in, talk to us, talk a little ball with us. Tell us we don't know nobody. A lot of college football news though happening across the country. You did mention that. We talked last night about this, and I wanted to kind of go more into this. Obviously, the SEC has been the dominant part of the conversation. TD Jake says, "Free Jarquez Hunter. He don't deserve Peyton Thorne." I think
Correct.
I agree with you there. Yeah, you TD
Correct.
made friends with Will. The ACC. There's a big one this weekend in Pony Up Land in Dallas. I'm absolutely ecstatic to watch the football game. It's a crime that we're not going to be there, but it is what it is. I mean, well, you're off. We could have done it,
Could have.
knowing what we know now. But it is what it is. That being said,
I mean, we would have only had 4 weeks to scramble and prepare for that. That would have been a lot. Logistically, would have been a lot.
logistically, I mean, look, I've got some flight credits. I got $400 worth of Southwest flight credits just sitting in an account. But that being said, the ACC in general, as we kind of wait, I don't think I've turned the call thing on. I think that's an issue. I'm sorry about that. We've been sitting here for 7 minutes, and you can call back now. Bryce, you should learn the Creed this weekend. Not a chance. I knew the Creed back in '04, baby. I was the biggest Creed winner and the Creed knower of ball ever was. That was a fun time. What a fun time. What I was saying though, Will, is the ACC. What are the odds that we seriously have 3 undefeated teams in conference? Like, we sit here with an undefeated Miami, an undefeated Clemson. I'm not talking about obviously within conference, and an undefeated SMU. And SMU gets left out because they can't play in it. Does an 11-1 undefeated ACC SMU get in the playoff? Like, do you have to put them in?
I mean, I don't know how they don't make it. Really don't.
I'm with you there. All right, first call on the line. I'm on the line. I apologize for not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Here we go. What's your name? Where are you calling from? And let us know what you want to talk about.
Oh, this is TriStar, and I'm calling from my home in God's country, or as we all might know it as Polk County, Tennessee. How y'all doing tonight?
Brother, we are doing fantastic. You staying safe out there on the roadways?
Of course. I had to come down here into this unfortunate hellhole known as Alabama, and I got ostracized for wearing my Tennessee hat.
Yeah, ask him about that photo he took after Tennessee's win.
Hey, people in our chat wanted to know about that photo after Tennessee's win. You smoking the cigar with I presume that was your lady?
Yes, sir. we was at the truck stop, and after the game, I wanted to get a cigar. Unfortunately, they didn't have cigars, so I was like, you know what? I'll just get us a couple Black and Milds. That'll work.
I love it. I love it. What you want to talk about us? What you want to talk about tonight? What you got on the docket for us?
Well, we've got an interesting slate of games this week. Obviously, Tennessee and Kentucky, Georgia, Florida. Who does Tech got, or do they play?
Bye week this week.
Okay, they're on a bye week. I think LSU and Alabama is on a bye week because they play next week. Should be interesting. I don't. I feel like in the Southeastern Conference, there's not really a true number one right now. Like, if you had asked me, who do you think is going to be in the SEC championship? I'll just tell you right now, I don't know. It'll obviously sort itself out in the next few weeks, but as of right now, I would maybe say Tennessee and A&M. I'm just kind of throwing a shot in the dark.
No, and I mean, look, before we get into the conversation, I think that it's there's not really a wrong answer. Well, there is a wrong answer. Don't let people tell you that there are wrong answers, and there's not just dumb people. There's dumb answers as well. But I don't think that you gave a wrong answer because there's a way to justify what you said, and people might not agree with that, but I think there's a way to justify it. I will tell you this, TriStar. I was in College Station this past weekend. I'll be interested to see what this A&M can do this A&M team can do when they're not in the friendly confines of Kyle Field. I think that's a big thing for them. I mean, look, I was at 2 games this year where the home team definitely benefited. That was LSU Ole Miss, and then that was Texas A&M LSU. So when you talk about that, I mean, look, A&M is right now the undefeated SEC team. However, the rankings showcase that AP voters and a lot of people feel like they're not the best team in the SEC. So to your point, I think there's a flaw that you could pick out with every single team, and I think it makes for an exciting month of November.
Yeah, because, I mean, you can go look at I say right now the SEC is coming down to, in my opinion, these 4 teams: Georgia, Texas A&M, and Tennessee. I think it's going to be a combination of those 4 in the SEC championship. I don't see it being any other teams. Alabama's out of it. LSU maybe could get out of it, but they'd have to have A&M lose twice, which I don't see happening. All the other teams, I just don't know. This has just been such an insane season in the SEC where you don't really know who's going to win what that week.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great thing. Now, obviously, if it somehow ended up, weirdly enough, being Texas and Texas A&M, I will never accept it because I refuse to accept them as conference members. But, that is what it is. But, I will say this, when it comes to at least this weekend, I think Florida will give Georgia a game. Just something is telling me about that game. DJ Lagway is going to get hot at the right time. And I think that because Georgia's defense, they're still really good. They're not what they were 2 and 3 years ago. I think Lagway can give them some fits because their secondary is kind of suspect right now. Is it safe to say?
No, it is. I mean, that's completely fair. I mean, even in the Texas win there, TriStar, it was the front 7 that completely dominated and overwhelmed a combination of Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning. So I think that's very fair. If Florida can buy Lagway some time, Lagway can buy some time with his legs, they can have success. And I'll tell you that as a person who's been to that game, it's definitely a situation where, it's definitely a situation where you have a rivalry. Look, Billy Napier needs 2 wins? Is that what we're sitting on? They're 4-3. So I mean, this is one of them that you feel like you could have, a good amount of home fans there, and you kind of see what happens.
Yeah, because I mean, coming into the season, everybody was looking at that final 6-game stretch and was like, "My God, who did Florida piss off?"
Yeah, no, it's true.
Brutal. But now, I mean, as the seasons went through, I mean, Georgia, I mean, Carson Beck the last few games has not looked good. They can't run the ball. Yeah, they got a good front seven, but that's it. I mean, outside of that, offensively, what has Georgia done? I think what this has proven is that Carson Beck is really missing Lad McConkey and Brock Bowers. Then you look at obviously they go to Texas, and I think Texas is really good, but again, they're not some world beater. Then I think after that they get Ole Miss at home, right?
No, they go to Ole Miss. They're going to go to Ole Miss.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. They go to Ole Miss, and Ole Miss, as 2 years ago, as I've proven right again, they're not what people think that they are. You know, for some reason, everybody hyped them up. I don't think they're a world beater. I mean, yeah, Jackson Darts put up good numbers and they padded his stats, but I'm not really high on Ole Miss.
Well, frankly, TriStar, they hadn't
LSU,
played nobody. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, when they started
well,
playing real
yeah,
teams, they struggled. Ole Miss, that is.
yeah, yeah, true. And then, then after that, you get LSU, and you get them at home. So I mean, you'll have the home crowd behind you, and then obviously Florida State. But Florida State, my God, I swear, I think North Alabama could put up more of a fight than Florida State right now. I think Tennessee Chattanooga could put up more of a fight. I mean, it looks like this team just looks pathetic. I mean, you thought at first it was the quarterback, with DJ, but turns out he's not really the problem. It's just the whole team. I think this is a proven fact that if you live and die by the portal, you can go from 1 year having a national championship caliber team to the next year you might not win 2 games.
No, you're exactly right. I mean, it's we've seen both ends of the spectrum. I think with this Florida State team, when you hit, you can be one of the best teams in the country. When you miss, you fail miserably. And look, I mean,
Oh,
look,
absolutely.
DJU's not very good, but I do agree with you. He's the type of quarterback who has to have a really good team around him, and it's been exposed this season that they don't have a good team at all. I mean,
No.
I'm very wary, TriStar, of saying, "Hey, that team's terrible." Florida State is terrible. I mean, they're terrible.
Yeah, Florida State. There are high school teams, I think, in North Georgia and Metro Atlanta that could probably give Florida State a game right now.
I love it. I love it. Well,
And one more
go ahead.
One more thing before I go. As I say every time I'm in here, one day Tech will be back in the SEC, and I will be proven right. And Troy sucks, and that whole stretch of 231 going down to Dothan is an absolute dump and it's boring. So anyways, y'all have a good night.
Appreciate it, TriStar. Thanks so much, bro. I love how he just got the phone call off. I'm pretty sure he was not only the caller, he was the operator as well. A lot of stuff to unpack there from TriStar's call. Alex says, ask Will if he'll write my essays before I right back to the phone lines we go. Here we go. All right, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Zach from Columbus, Georgia. You know me. And I was thinking about Ohio State and Will Howard in his homecoming comeback to Penn State in the home game at wideout. What do you think about that?
Wait, his homecoming back to Penn State?
Yeah, he was born and raised there. He was a Penn State fan ever since he was little. Said in the press conference.
That's right. I forgot about that.
I got you. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Well, just about the game in general. That's what you want to know?
Yeah.
Awesome. Penn State's got a good defense, man. Ohio State's going to be missing 2 of their top 3 tackles. I don't know if you're old enough to put money on this game, but
Nope.
Ohio State's going to be missing 2 of their top 3 offensive tackles. Penn State has a really good defense, and
they're
go ahead.
They're also at a wideout game. They're also at wideout.
Is this a night game, by the way?
Yep, it's a wideout night game.
Whiteout night game. I mean, hey man, I'm for Penn State winning. What are your thoughts? You let us know.
I think it's gonna be tough for Ohio State to pull it out, but I think Will Howard's gonna overcome it. And this is like his revenge game ever since he said that Penn State thought he wasn't good enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's gonna show up.
Yeah, Gavin said the game is at 12, so apparently it's not a night game.
What? I wouldn't trust Gavin. I would not trust Gavin.
Not trust Gavin. That's duly noted. No, I mean, look, I think it's gonna be a fun game. The winner of this game has a direct path to the Big Ten title game. Let me ask you this: if Ohio State loses this, can they still make the playoff as a two-loss team?
It depends if we show up and beat Indiana by a lot, November 23rd, and
Are,
it depends.
are
It
you
depends on if they can beat Michigan too.
are you an Indiana fan?
I'm an Ohio State fan.
Well, what's your thoughts on Indiana?
I'm actually going to that game personally, and I think it's gonna be a good game.
Yeah, money.
Indiana has really good defense and offense, but it is at Ohio State, so I think we're gonna pull out the win.
I got you. And let me ask you this before we get you out of here: if Ohio State misses the playoff this year, does Ryan Day need to be fired?
Yes.
Ooh, I
Yes.
like it. People in the comments are saying that you stole your mom's phone, but they respect it.
No, that's my own phone. It's my own phone.
I got you.
Ryan Day will be fired because we've lost to Michigan 3 years in a row. Did not contend for a Big Ten game title last year, and he hasn't really produced in the playoffs. So I think he'll be fired.
But man, I mean, for all of that, yes, they were one play away from literally winning the national title. I mean, if they'd have beat Georgia in the Peach Bowl, they'd have beat the snot out of TCU.
Yeah.
But they didn't, and so to your point, I like it. Well, Zach, we appreciate you calling, brother.
Yep.
You know what? That was pleasantly productive.
I'm impressed.
I'm impressed as well. That was a good call, Zach. Talk a little bit about Ohio State. Will, any thoughts on just the myriad of topics that we've discussed 22 minutes and 17 seconds into the show? Like, where do you want to go from this until the next person calls in?
First off, Ohio State, Penn State is a noon kickoff on Fox.
It's not
big noon kickoff. No, I think they already did it, didn't they?
They already did the whiteout, I'm pretty sure.
But that's all right. Fox's TV contract is wild. They love the noon window. Don't get it. I don't know, man. TriStar was all over the place. I did tell Sam he needs to get in here. True. I did text Sam, say you need to get in here. TriStar stealing your bit.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
That's a good segue. Good segue, Will. Thanks for calling in. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Glenn from Rome, Georgia.
What's up, Glenn? How you doing, brother?
I'm good. How are you tonight?
I'm doing well, man. Doing well. What you got on your mind tonight?
A couple of things. Want to get your opinion on Georgia Tech. Do you think that Haynes King has been injured basically the whole year? Also, going back to last year, 23. Of course, I mentioned this before. How they moved the ball in the second quarter and against Louisville early. Then later on in the year, like North Carolina, they were behind.
Yeah.
And that offense just was potent. They got back in the game. They won it. Even the Miami game and Georgia, a really good offense.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that Buster is really learning? Maybe he doesn't really get it. He's trying to figure it out. What do you really think?
Yeah, so I'm going to start with the Haynes King injury question, Glenn. And, I think it's safe to say that this is a guy who has been banged up for a majority of the season. I think we've learned that. I think we've been able to kind of say that this is a guy who has been nursing some type of injury. And just maybe, Glenn, it was just the bumps and bruises of playing a college football season. And honestly, I mean, I'd have to go look at the percentages. I mean, I know he plays quarterback, but in terms of the run game and the pass game, I mean, he has to be your highest, player in terms of the ranking of how amount of he's used. Like his usage rate has to be ridiculous. I've said time and time again, the past two games have shown you how dependent you are on Haynes King. So I think he has been hurt, and I think that North Carolina game just kind of sent it over the top. And look, from everything that I've been told, it's been a pain tolerance thing. It's not something that needs surgery. It's not something that necessarily needs correction in terms of any type of procedure. It's just that the only way that he can get back healthy is rest. And so I think that this bye week comes at a great time. You obviously hope that you get him back for the Miami game. I mean, that has to happen, really, for you to have any thought process of winning that football game. It has to. So we'll see. I mean, I would imagine it would surprise me if he doesn't play that Thursday night game against NC State. Like that would be very surprising. But then, kind of to move over to your point about the offense in general. Look, people fell in love with Buster Faulkner, and I get why. I mean, the offense looked good last year. I mean, it was, yes, you had a high rate of turnovers, but it looked really explosive. Here's the thing for me, Glenn, and I know people don't tend to tune in to our show because they do feel like that I'm more negative about what Georgia Tech has going on. But my thought process is here. You have to understand what you're getting excited about in terms of and relative to where you've been. This is a team that did nothing for 4 years offensively, had no identity. I mean, had nothing. It was you felt like you had to luck into opportunities offensively. And so last year, while it wasn't perfect, it was such a rush of excitement for fans that I think they gravitated. They've held on to all off season of saying, "Hey, well, we're just going to keep getting better and better." And I think that you're learning, hey, you've got a guy who's young in terms of his play calling and having full reins of an offense, especially at the Power Four level. And then you have a offense that wasn't perfect last year, and progress isn't always linear. I mean, you just don't always get better every single year. Because if that was the logic, Glenn, and we applied it to every single team, well, every single team in the country would get better and we'd have no coaches fired and we'd have nothing to talk about. And so I think you're seeing there's a little bit of, defenses have figured it out. Eric Singleton's not surprising people anymore. I mean, he's still getting good numbers, but they know where he is. They know what they have to do. Malik Rutherford, at this point in his career, has become such a reliable figure in a Georgia Tech offense that they're going to know where he is on the field. So I think there's so many adjustments that other teams have made to Georgia Tech. And you can be frustrated and you can say, hey, well, Buster Faulkner hasn't made his. And I think maybe that's just the growing pains that he's having as a play caller, because you're seeing something right now, Glenn, where you're having over dependence upon not just Haynes King, but Jamal Haynes. And I'm actually being real about this. They are going to seriously injure Jamal Haynes if they can't find some type of balance offensively, because that kid's not built to touch the ball 20, 25, 30 times a game. That's not a slight on him. It's just his actual build. Like, they have to find another option. And I know injuries are an issue here, but that's just kind of my thoughts on it. I think it's a growing pains. I think you found a little bit of it's been stagnant at times. And like I said on the show on Sunday night, to me, it's one of those things, Glenn, where they're still putting up some numbers, but it just doesn't feel the same at all. It feels like they're try hard at not try hard.
It's not.
Oh, what were you saying?
It's not the same. It's not the same. Let me ask you this. You said this a few weeks ago, and I agree with you, and I said this last year. Avery Boyd is almost unstoppable if you throw him the ball enough. He's big. He's quick. I know he dropped the big ball Saturday, but for the most part, he should be getting more attention than he does. And Halls, is it Halls, the big other tight end?
Jackson
They
Hall.
went to both of those guys early in the game in that first quarter, then they didn't go back to them until Fowler came into the game. I'm like, do you not? They're just, I don't know. It just has not come together. I want to ask you one other quick question.
Yeah.
Do you think, and I'm a big Tech fan, I love Brent Key, but I've just been thinking the last couple of days, all of these injuries, you don't know who's hurt, you don't know who's playing, and even the Ricky Bronfield thing, and back to last year with Andrew Thacker, it's kind of the way that Brent handles it. I just wonder, do other fans feel like I feel like, okay, what's going on? Is it something more than we think it is? Then he got, Marco Coleman. I'm not saying some of those coaches shouldn't have been fired. It's just like the secrecy of it. And it makes you wonder, is it something else going on that we don't know about? I appreciate it. Answer that, and you have a good night.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. I'm gonna go ahead and hang up. I want to get to this question. I know we had a caller. Seriously, Will, that might be one of the best questions that we've had on the Talking Tuesday show yet. Yeah, no, I do. I mean, there is more to this. There's completely 110% more to what you're seeing on social media. I guess I'll just say this and allow and as far as I'll go with it is Brent Key handles the things the way that he sees fit. It's not a secret to anybody who's ever been around that program that it's his way or the highway. And I'm not saying that's inherently a bad thing to handle your program like that. What I am saying is that the coaches that he would like to model his program after have a little bit more of a runway of and street cred that allows them to be able to gain respect in that in that factor. So I don't think he's trying to do it the wrong way. It's just I don't think I think that there's people are more liable to question Brent Key on things than they are liable to question a Kirby Smart or a Nick Saban. Now I get that's what he came from and that's what he's used to. But to me, that's where that situation is. And then with the injuries, the keeping things mum, I'll say this. Will and I were talking about this right before we hit the button to go live. When you don't address things, and I'm not saying that we need to sit here and we need to know the ins and outs of the Ricky Brumfield situation, the ins and outs of when you let Mike Daniels, the running back coach, go 2 weeks into your interim tenure. I'm not saying that we have to know everything, but when you provide little to no details on anything and everything, and then the rumor mill starts up by the people who maybe don't know what's going on, you in turn cannot get mad because that's the product of what happens in that situation. So no, I think it's a great question, Glenn. I think that I personally think it's a growing maturity thing for Brent Key. I think that's what it is in terms of the coaching circles. He needs to be able to handle that situation better. And maybe at some point we can tell the stories of what's happened, but it's not an isolated incident. I think a lot of people are quick to run to his defense because they like him. I get that. And that they want him to win here. What'd you say?
Tech man.
He's a tech man. Will, your microphone is really rough. Maybe unplug, go plug back in. We'll see. But so to that point, yes, there is more than just that's on the surface, Glenn. And it's one of those things that look, it's you can still like Georgia Tech and like Brent Key and admit there's things he needs to grow in as a head coach. A lot of people get offended by that, and I think that's something that's just it is what it is. But yeah, no, this is an isolated incident. The Ricky Brumfield thing is not an isolated incident. I'll just say it because it was out there publicly. Jack Barton, the 2-month transfer defensive end from Furman, now at UConn, him tweeting out that you dodged a bullet. People want to make that out as a disgruntled and former employee type of situation. Will it might be that, but like I threw in our Discord and our messages, you don't know his perspective, and I don't think that it's happened. So there's different cases of it. It can't just be by chance. Certain people like the way that Brent Key operate, and other people really don't. I think there's a very polarizing aspect to Brent Key as a head coach in terms of if you like it, you're bought in. If not, then not. And that's okay. I'm not saying you just have to find that because if it doesn't work, things can get ugly. And obviously, Will can do that. So,
yeah. Do I sound better?
that sounds way better. Yeah, it was a little crackly there for a second.
Way better. Okay. I mean, yeah. You say all that. That doesn't mean that Brent Key can't be successful. I mean, he can still certainly be a successful head coach. It's just. It's everything. It's all aspects of it. It's the optics of it. It's the fact that they don't like information getting out, which
I
really have
that.
no issue with that. But it's like you said,
Yeah.
it just strikes up the rumor mill, and then people's names get run through the mud for no reason. And that's both sides of this situation. That's not trying to say one person or the other. It happens everywhere.
Mhm.
It happens at different places. It's just one way of doing things. And, Brent Key, if he wins some more games, people will stop asking questions.
Nobody will care.
But, nobody's going to care. I mean, yeah, he won a bowl game last year. Great. And now follow it up. You got off to a great start. And I know you've had injuries and that happens. But you got to find a way to win some games.
Yeah. No, and you make a great point there, Will. It's just one of those things where, I mean, Will, you're a fan of a program when you take control of a program like you did, you better win. Because if not, it
Yep.
creates an ugly situation. And that's that. Look, that's not a secret. I mean, we all know how Brent Key got the job. Yeah, the guys liked him in that locker room when he was the interim head coach, and they rallied around him. But also, we know what his relationships with the donor base, I mean, that's not a secret. Like everybody knows that. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying when you enter a situation where you kind of had the higher powers, I guess I'll say, Will, really go to bat for you, you better win. Because if not, then it creates a little bit of toxicity in the program. Brother, what is his name?
And then just in his situation, you're probably going to lose friends from this. I mean, that's kind of the harsh reality. You might lose some friends because you just don't have the success on the field they thought. At least in the short term, you might.
Yeah, no, I
Hopefully,
think that's
in
fair.
the long term, you don't. But it like you said, it makes things real dicey.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree with you wholeheartedly there. I think it's good. Brother
BKL.
BKL Contreras, shout out to everyone in the chat, including the crowded booth. Keep up a good work on the channel. Appreciate it. And shout it out from the South Bronx. Brother BKL Contreras, aka the sport entertainment guy. Tough night for the folks in the Bronx up there. Looks like their Yankees are about to bow out of the World Series. Are the Yankees winning?
They were not at last check. It was 2-1. Let's see.
Yeah, they're losing 2-1 in the third. Freddie Freeman's on fire. That hurts. But yeah, no, I mean,
loaded one out though.
Oh, we had someone call in, and I had to. They ended up hanging up. So let's see if we can figure this out. I think kind of what we're talking about with the secrecy aspect. No one likes for. I'll say this: over the past month, you get a good read of the education of certain people on like how things work. You know what I'm saying? Like someone said that could be a HIPAA violation. I mean, that's not. So and so reporting an injury is not a HIPAA violation. That's not what that is. Now,
I don't think
that,
athletes.
yes,
I don't think athletes are necessarily subject to HIPAA violations. And also, just stating an injury isn't that can't be a HIPAA violation.
no, it's not. I mean, that happened down here when Harold Perkins tore his ACL, and a family member went on social media and said that's a HIPAA violation. I'm like, it's not. Like, I understand you're frustrated. You maybe didn't want the injury out there, but that's not true. Like, that's not real. And then just like, well, other programs don't want. It's like, I mean, I really, really mean this in like the nicest way possible. Just go outside, like learn a little bit about what other teams do. Watch
Touch
football.
grass.
Yeah, but just like watch football in its whole. Like I mean, don't just turn it on when your team comes on and turn it off and then try to have takes on it because it's not, I don't want to say you don't know what you're talking about, but it's like there's just so much more than your team and your sphere. And
I mean, you have a sheltered view. I mean,
yeah,
it's been one of the best things for me. I mean, for me, it's been an escape from my own team, but I mean, it gives me a much better perspective of. And, if I'm only watching my team, if I'm only watching Auburn and watching Auburn lose these games, I think Auburn's the worst team in the country. But if I'm watching
Kent State, then you're like
other teams, it's like, okay, Auburn's better. Auburn is good enough to win. They just hadn't figured it out. And that's kind of where Auburn sits. But I mean, it gives you just a much more holistic view of college football. I mean, there's 130 teams at the FBS level, all competing for a national championship. You have a very sheltered view if you single in on one and only watch one and watch the teams that they play. Because, and it's like we've said in college football, there's 12 games a season. You're probably going to get 12 different versions of the same team every single week. Even if they're the number one team in the country and they go undefeated, you're going to see multiple versions.
Yeah, you're not going to
of
see the
those
same.
teams.
It's rare to see the same team week in, week out. Probably the closest to that recently, and I know people are gonna be like, "Wow!" The two teams that are closest to that will is 2022 Georgia,
I would
um,
say that.
and 2019 LSU. I mean, yeah, they played some tough games, but you knew what that team was going to do coming into the game. Like those are the two teams where you're like, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Volpe grand slam, Gavin
Yankees
said.
now lead 5-2.
That's big. That's big in the Bronx. It ain't rocket science says, "Good evening, Crowded Booth fam. Welcome in. Welcome in." No, I think it's to your point, and like I want to go back to the Brent Key thing. I'm not sitting here trying to say because there's such a divisiveness between he's terrible, he's great, he's terrible, he's great. I think the truth sits somewhere in between. Okay, your program was nothing, like nothing. Like your program was completely obsolete. Like when they talk about Colorado being the worst Power Four team 2 years ago, you were right there with them. I mean, like, see, like, let's not forget that. Like that's where you were, like completely obsolete. Like nobody was talking about you. And now you've gotten back to a foundation, but I think people didn't quite understand the true nature of what it was going to take to build something sustainable because I don't want to say bare bones, but man, you had just been ripped to shreds in terms of what you were as a program. I mean, the dignity, the any type of recruiting prowess, like I mean, it was gone. And so now you sit in a situation where you have a guy who had success in year one relative to Georgia Tech. I mean, they went 6-6, which was a great job by a team that I don't think was very, very good, but they were able to, do some things. I mean, defense was terrible, and you won 6 games. So you were in turn, you got to this spot where you're like, okay, we experienced some success. And I think people, and I'm not blaming fans for doing this. I want to say this. I'm never going to blame a fan for being fanatical about their team. But when you enter into a conversation about, relative to the college football world, you have to understand that your sole viewpoint of that said team isn't going to necessarily carry the same weight that you think it might.
How many
Like,
times have we said it? I
yeah,
mean, the people in Vegas know what they're doing, believe it or not. They expected Georgia Tech to win 5 games. So, I mean, and they're so good out there that I lean on them for expectations, really. So if
yeah.
Georgia Tech loses out and goes 5-7, it'd be very disappointing considering the start to the season. But nationally, that's kind of what expectations were. And we've had some people in the Discord saying that he should be fired. Brent Key should be fired if he loses out. Blah blah blah. I don't think so because what was the realistic expectation? A bowl game,
Well,
and
that's
you
the key
fall one
word,
game short of that.
realistic. That's the key
Yeah,
word, realistic. I
and you
mean,
fall one game short, and in the middle of the season you lose your starting quarterback, and you probably lose to some teams that you would have beaten had you had your starting quarterback. It wouldn't be very fair.
I agree with you. I agree. That's a good point made. All right, let's go back to the phone lines. What's your name and where are you calling from?
This is Brennan Simpkins. I'm calling from Charleston, South Carolina. Longtime listener.
Brennan Simpkins. I don't think you've ever called into the show. Long-time listener.
No, I have not.
What you got for us?
This is Brennan Simpkins. I am calling from Charleston, South Carolina. Longtime listener, first time caller. To be honest, the Georgia Tech situation, I kind of see it as a Moneyball thing from that scene where they're all scouting the players. So we're just pretty much maybe a low market football team and a high market high market league, pretty much.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I mean, like when you talk about their, Brennan, that you talk about the fact that they don't have the money to compete in terms of the elite of the elites in the transfer portal. Like they're not going to pull in an elite defensive lineman. And we've seen that. Now, look, they evaluated correctly in Jordan Vandenberg. I mean, I like that guy. I think he's a good football player, high motor. And then they've missed elsewhere, at different spots. So when you're in that spot, no, I think that's a fair assumption. It has to be a Moneyball type of approach. How can we replace production with, you have to have, this is the thing, Bren. If you're going to be Georgia Tech and you're never going to be, and I'm not saying they can't be, but if you're never going to be the big money spenders, the top 10 in spending in terms of NIL and recruiting, you have to have elite evaluation. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, because obviously we're not going to be the Georgias or Alabama. We're just kind of a low market team and not a low market team, just a regular team. I mean, a decent team in a small conference pretty much because there's really, you look at the ACC besides maybe Clemson and a few other schools, there's not really a big elite conference. And that's just kind of the reality of the situation. I guess some fans may not be a realist like I am, but that's kind of how I view it at the moment.
No, I don't think that you're viewing it in a negative light by any means, but I think that's a very accurate viewpoint of what Georgia Tech is.
Yeah, I'm not being like some people obviously think the realist view can be negative, but it's just maybe the fact of the situation, and people they just not want to hear it really.
Well, and Brennan, to kind of round out your call here, I mean, I think it's also important to note it doesn't always have to be like that. You know, you can change.
Yeah.
And, but it takes time. I mean, you're having to change fundamentally what Georgia Tech has been, and that's okay. And it takes a little time. You just have to have the patience for it.
That's pretty much how I agree, because obviously people want to see it happen overnight, but it's just not going to happen that way. It's just going to be a process, and you may not agree with it. At some point, it may just not work out, but you kind of have to just going to start slow, really. And this is his second year, so we'll just see how it goes from here.
I want to ask you real quick, what will be your opinion if they lose out? Like, what's going to be your feeling?
I'll give it a few games into next season, but if it doesn't really improve in the next season, I can admit that Buster's play calling hasn't been ideal, but obviously this is his second year as a full-time offensive coordinator, so he may still be feeling up the ropes a little bit, but I'll give it a couple of games in the next season, but that's kind of my situation at the moment.
I like it. Appreciate you calling in, brother. Thanks, man.
It's a good call.
That was a good call.
Yeah, I mean, he made a great point. Realistic is not necessarily negative.
It is not. If you just called in that that area code I did not recognize, go ahead and call back in. We once again, we appreciate your call. No, Will, you're exactly right. I mean, I think that was a very accurate take from someone. I'm going to go on a limb here. Don't want to be offensive. Was on the younger end of the spectrum in terms of, you know, his college football fandom. So I think that's very, very mature take rather than some of the takes we see. Like, you can like where you are, but you have to understand where you are relative to where you are. I mean, you made a bowl game after winning 9 games in 3 years. Like, that's improvement. And yeah, I misdialed the call like 3 times, Brennan says. Oh,
you got in though.
You got in. I do appreciate it. I'm just going to call this number back. Let's just call them back. You want to? That's always the most fun part of the whole thing. Just calling these people back. On a radio show where it's like you do the prank calls, you know what I mean?
Hello.
Hey, we're just we missed your call here on the crowded booth. Just wanted to get back to you.
Yeah. I wanted to try. I was trying to call in. Are you're not taking calls anymore?
Yeah, you're live right now, my friend.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because nobody answered when I called. Yeah, I want to talk about. I don't know what you guys got going on right now, but I want to talk about the Alabama LSU game coming up in the next week in Baton Rouge. Can I talk about that?
Let's do it, brother. I'm ready.
Okay. Yeah, I want to say this. Alabama. I think the LSU is gonna probably. It wouldn't surprise me if LSU blows Alabama out in this game. Alabama, they played a team. They proved absolutely nothing. What they did against Missouri, they went against a team that didn't even have a quarterback. The receivers were depleted. Missouri was totally was a depleted team, and you know Alabama, they probably gonna come into the game feeling like they really did something big, in which they didn't. Considering they got beat by Vanderbilt, and some other clubs. I think the LSU has the advantage. I think what hurt LSU in the last game that they played was the interceptions by the quarterback. But I think overall, if you look at the teams, I think that LSU, and I'm pretty sure you agree with that, the LSU has the better team, better roster, and they're definitely more disciplined. That's the main thing. That's the thing that's hurting Alabama the most.
people said that they thought they wouldn't miss Nick Saban, but that's the big thing that they miss about Saban is the discipline. And these players are totally committing too many penalties. And in previous years, with the roster that Alabama had, they could get away with that. But they don't have the same type of team that they had 4 or 5 years. You remember when they used to have 2 or 3 receivers that could catch the ball at any time and go the distance. All they really got is one guy right now, the 17-year-old guy. They really don't have a superstar running back. Alabama is not good enough to commit penalties. And if they do the same thing against LSU, I'm pretty sure you agree because, I'm an LSU fan. I think that LSU will not only win the game, but they'll probably blow out Alabama. And I like to see what you think about how I feel about that situation.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, you brought up a lot of great points. And my biggest thing has been, yes, Alabama still has talent, but they're averaging nearly 3 or 4. I can't remember the exact number of penalties per game than they were under Nick Saban, and it's the small details. I mean, it's absolutely the small details that make the difference. I will say this, I walked out of College Station and Kyle Field the other night, and I truthfully was like, you know what? There's a game plan to beat LSU. If you can get Milrow running wild, that's going to be a plus for Alabama. But I also tell you this: I was in the building when Ole Miss came there, and Ole Miss was the favorites. Home field advantage matters, and I don't trust this Kalen DeBoer-led Alabama team to walk into Death Valley and win a football game, just based off the sheer fact of coaching and discipline. Those are the two things. We can talk ball, we can talk X's and O's all we want. Those two things have led to losses, and so that's kind of where I sit with it. Just bottom line. I mean,
like you said, LSU. There's besides a couple. The LSU probably has one of the best home field advantages in college football. Besides, what somebody like maybe a Clemson or maybe Michigan or somebody like that. There's very few schools that have a home field advantage with the crowd, especially on a Saturday night in Baton Rouge. It's going to be hard for Alabama to walk into that stadium and with a brand new coach. And then, like I said, their best player is a 17-year-old kid, and he's never been in that environment with that many people and that large of a crowd, screaming and hollering. I think it's going to be too much for Alabama to overcome. Like I said, with the young team that they have. And one other quick thing I want to say with you, like I say, I'm gonna give the Alabama coach the benefit of the doubt. They keep saying that this guy has won everywhere he's been, but you look at the schools that he's won at. These are not exactly; those were not SEC schools that he was winning at, and those were not SEC teams that he was playing. And I'm just gonna give an example about what happened in the championship game last year when he was at Washington and they got blown out in that game. I think that he's a hell of a coach, but I don't think that he'll never live up to the legacy. And there's very few people that can live up to the legacy of Nick Saban. But I doubt if he'll be the man that will do it. And I'd like to see what you think about him living up to the legacy of Saban. And I thank you for taking my call.
I appreciate it, brother. Thank you for calling in, man. We'd love to hear from you again. Well, let's talk about Kalen DeBoer for a second here, Will, because first off, unbelievable call. I mean, that's what you do. That's why we wake up in the morning for calls like that. I mean, that's why I hit the go live button for calls like that right there. No, seriously. But in all, I don't know what his name was, Gavin. I hope he calls back. I hope he calls back.
I don't think he said his name.
I don't think I have no clue. I think Kalen DeBoer is a good coach. Alabama's going to be an 8-win at worst team over the course of his, 8's going to be their floor. But in terms of, the legacy of Nick Saban, no one's living up to that, man.
Dr. Bob, you have missed some top-notch calls tonight.
Yeah, no, give me your thoughts, because I know you were in all seriousness, you were kind of worried. You're like, okay, Auburn's got to face another guy who wins, maybe not to the rate of what Nick Saban did, but I think he's going to be fine there. But we'll see if fine is good enough, for Alabama.
Yeah, I'm not sure fine is going to be good enough. And just real quick on this game against LSU, discipline's the problem. They got to go to over to 100,000 screaming fans. That's going to be a big issue for them.
Agreed. Agreed. All right, let's get this call in here. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
It's well.
I think
Hello?
I know who this is.
It's well.
I think I know who this is. Hang up.
It's
Hang up.
well.
Hang up.
Oh, God, I know who that is.
He's been in the chat tonight. You know who that was.
I know exactly who it is.
No, Ralph, it was not.
Wow, what a night! What a night! No, but in all seriousness, Kalen DeBoer, I think he's a good football coach. I'm not going to rush to fire him if I'm Alabama's brass, but I think the first time he goes 9-3, you're going to see frustration.
You've seen it already. They've been hounding him for what he wears on the sideline.
Well, timeout. They could go 9-3 this year. I mean,
Exactly.
they could go 8-4. They could walk into Jordan Hare 8-3.
Nope. They don't come to Jordan Hare. I don't know why they'd go to Auburn.
Oh, they don't. That's true. Well, Dr. Bob, do you want to call in? We'll keep the phone lines open here for the next 3 minutes. If not, we're going to go ahead and end this show. What a great show. What a great show.
It was not who I thought it was.
It wasn't?
It was not.
Was it someone in that crew?
It was someone in that crew, yes.
Oh, God. Okay. We appreciate everyone.
Yeah, Alabama's lack of discipline is alarming, and it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a huge problem going to LSU. And, I would feel much more confident in LSU if they still had Harold Perkins. I mean, just a guy that you can have just follow Milroe all night. And, you know better than me. I don't know that there's anybody on that defense that can do that for 4 quarters. I would think that if they had a healthy Harold Perkins, they'd have a good shot at containing him. But they don't. I mean, Milroe is that good of an athlete. He's a great running back. Not so much a great quarterback. That's why you got to keep him in the pocket and make him throw. That's how you beat him. And play ball control. Is LSU going to try to play ball control? I mean, if they can't run the ball, there's no way.
They can't run the ball. They can't run the ball. So there's
no way.
Rocket says Perkins was an attitude issue. Apparently, I mean, he did tear his ACL, so I think that's also
he did tear his ACL.
But in terms of the fit, Whit Weeks would be last about one.
Would last about one series.
Okay. Yeah. What about Will's assistant coach? That they don't know nobody. LSU fans claim that they're better without him. I mean,
the defense does look better without him.
The defense looks better without him. It's not an indictment on Harold Perkins.
No.
I think he's a fantastic player. They could not figure out how to utilize him. But like I said last week,
do you think it could be a case of just saying, hey, do what you got to do. Go make plays. And now they're playing more as a unit?
I mean, I think the middle of the defense was the biggest issue because you had a guy in Major Burns who isn't great at playing in space. And, it'll be Cecil says that LSU will blow out. I can go ahead and tell you that we're getting a nice new client, and I'm enjoying it. That's enjoy. All right, let's go to the phone lines. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, man. Well, how's it going? My name's Wade Mason. I'm from Carrollton. I'm a huge fan of y'all's show, and I just wanted to call in real quick, say that I really appreciate everything y'all do. But I want to know what on earth is going on with running the ball out of the shotgun with Georgia Tech on 4th and 1 every single time. Every single time I feel like they just run out of the shotgun. Because I was at the North Carolina game last year when I saw Brent Seitzer going on play action straight down the sideline on 4th and 1, getting a touchdown. And I just feel like that hadn't been there this year. Do you know what's going on?
Well, I think, and I'm going to go ahead and hang up. We'll get to your call. Appreciate you calling in, though, brother. Thank you so much. All right, this number, we're going to get that call real quick. I'll answer that really quick. Ralph's is over here is just berating our fans, and I don't know why.
Yeah,
Like, does Ralph
what is going
want to
on?
keep working the night shift at UPS? Is that what he wishes to do? It was what it is. Okay, real quick on that. I think it's a personnel thing. They have multiple injuries to the tight end room. Also, just a lack of creativity that we've seen out of the offensive play calling, and I think that it's very much okay to question that.
That's why
Running
you need a
backs, you
fullback.
guys. Well, there's that.
That's
That's
why
why
you
you
need a
need Zach.
fullback.
Okay, we're going back to the phone lines here. All right, here we go. Thanks so much for calling in. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is a question for Coach Will. Would you rather be locked in?
Thank you for hanging up.
This is the thing, though.
Thank you for
I
hanging
rushed
up.
that other guy off the phone lines for that.
Public apology. Public apology time.
To the Mr. Mason from Carrollton, Georgia, shout out. DM us. I'll send you a T-shirt. If you want a T-shirt, comment, by the way. We got a big box of them because Ralph forgot to bring them to Atlanta. So we got a big box of T-shirts. Well, do you have a T-shirt?
What does it look like?
Like the updated ones. I'll go get it real quick.
I don't think so. I don't think I have an updated one. Yeah, I think just going back to the last call, and now I can't answer the phone because Bryce controls it.
This is the new, it's the same number. I mean, I'm not.
Did you block the number?
I'd love to.
Running out of the shotgun in goal to go, 4th and 1. That's an epidemic. It's an epidemic.
Yeah, it's not Georgia Tech specific. Block
The
those people
updated
playing
TCB
games on the
shirt
phone.
has everything.
Cecil, have you called in tonight? Are you? I want to know who the LSU fan that called in was, because that was electric. And I'm clipping that and putting together as its own video. No, Will, here's the new shirts. If you want a shirt, go ahead and comment. We're selling some of them. They're super comfortable. Will, I'll get you one. What size? Large? Medium?
Give me an extra.
An extra large?
They shrink in the wash. I need an extra.
Well,
so if you want one, DM Bryce and order a size bigger than normal because they do shrink.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Call we've been waiting for all night. It's the man from East Baton Rouge Parish. He finished up his test last week. How you doing, brother?
I'm a little out of it, but doing well.
What you got?
Going through a long, just going through a long testing process is never fun, but glad that it's over. I wanted to ask about the game in Jacksonville this week and what your read on that game is going in. And where do you see Billy Napier with his job security? And I have some friends who are UF alumni, and sort of where you see their program headed.
That's a great question. I think it's a great one to end on. So, Dr. Bob, what I'm going to do, so you can hear what Will says. I'm going to go ahead and hang up, and we'll round this show out with your call if that works for you.
Yeah, sounds good, brother.
All right,
I'll hang up and we'll listen.
Awesome. Well, let's take that call thing down. We'll answer this and then we'll get out of here. Look, bottom line with this game, I've said this and TriStar kind of alluded to it a little bit early on. This is a situation where I think Florida needs 2 wins. Okay, they need 2 wins to get to a bowl game. There's an opportunity to win this game in Jacksonville. I don't know how they're going to do it, but I've seen enough times that this is going to be a game where you could play outside of yourself, above your capability level, that you could do it, you go win. And the next one to me, I'll be honest with you, is LSU, when LSU comes down there. Because if LSU beats Alabama, like our boy Big Cecil was saying, you have a potential emotional trap game the next week. You go down there to the Swamp. They need 2. I think Georgia wins this game. I'll spoil my pick. Georgia, last time I saw per bet online, was an 18-point favorite, which makes me nervous in terms because I don't like Georgia.
I like Florida in the points there.
Yeah, so give me your thoughts. Will, like this game, it obviously means a lot year in, year out. Could it be a scenario, because nothing is out of the realm of possibility? Could Florida make some things happen and make life tough for Georgia?
I mean, I think we've talked about it all year. Florida still has good players. They've got players that can compete at an SEC level. We've seen that. They just haven't been able to put it all together. I think they finally did against Kentucky. Played maybe the best game they've played. That wouldn't be fair to say. I was going to say maybe the best game they played under Billy Napier. Probably not, because they did beat Utah a couple years ago. But I mean, just talking about, they were explosive offensively. They were dominant on defense. So the potential's there for sure. And Georgia, they've shown that they're vulnerable. Obviously, they dropped the game to Alabama, but they're vulnerable. We've seen mobile dual threat quarterbacks have a lot of success against Kirby Smart defenses through the years. I think this game will just boil down to, can Georgia contain DJ Lagway? If they make him stay in the pocket and throw, I think Georgia's going to win the game. You know, we've talked a lot about the Georgia just team in general. They lack star power. They lack those big time difference makers. They've got NFL players across the roster, but they don't. Maybe it's not fair to say they don't. We just haven't seen anybody step up and be that big time playmaker that they've had in recent years on either side of the ball, unless Jalen Walker can replicate what he did against Texas.
Yeah,
we might have found that playmaker on defense, but you know, this all comes. I mean, and it's asking a lot of DJ Lagway, but I mean, this game's kind of on his shoulders, and how he performs is going to determine how well Florida does.
No, I'm with you there. I think that Florida's got a chance. I mean, this is a physical football game. Florida's better than that record indicates in terms of, you know, just the physicality and how they're going to play effort-wise. And I was talking with somebody who covers the team the other day, and they said people need to understand too, this isn't a roster that is out on Billy Napier. They like playing for him, and so there isn't an issue. You might have some, you know, some bad nuts once in a while, like, you know, guys that are just, you know, disappointed with playing time or something like that. But this roster is built in on him. So I mean, it'll be interesting. I mean, if they don't get to 6 wins, if they can get to 5, if they go 5-7, I don't think he gets fired. Like, we're gonna, I don't know. I think that you could build some momentum, you know, on the back half of the schedule. If you can get to a bowl game and go 7-6, they're gonna pop off next year because Lagway's coming back. I mean, it'll be interesting to see. Georgia, Florida, world's largest outdoor cocktail party. It's a heck of a time. Unbelievable game, and man, it's a good one.
It's a shame they don't play it on campus. Georgia can't.
Well, they will next year.
Georgia can't make the extra little hour trip to Gainesville. They'll go to Jacksonville. They won't go another hour.
Yeah,
scared. They're scared of the swamp.
Hey, there you go, right there. All right, we appreciate you watching. Fantastic call-in show. Some new callers. Make it happen every single Tuesday night, 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern. We're rocking here on Talkin' Tuesdays, and we'll catch you tomorrow night live, 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern, as we preview week number 10. Yes, folks, week number 10 is here, and it's going to be a fun one. We'll talk Florida, Georgia. We'll talk some other games as well. Thanks so much, Will Manis. My name is Bryce Kuhn. Make sure you check out Bet Online and make sure you do it responsibly. You can use code BELIEVE50. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks so much. See you later.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The crowded booth is coming on.